Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Giant Take podcast. Welcome to a Bengals versus Giants recap episode. It's another Sunday night football game, another prime time game the New York Giants have played, I should say, and yet another prime time loss for this team. What's new for New York Giants fans and the team itself? Alex and Josh coming to you for real post game as we were there earlier today. Earlier this evening. It's 12:30 in the morning right now, coming to you on basically Monday early morning. So I apologize for my voice because I lost it at the game. Right now it's slightly recovered, but after the screaming I might do on this episode, it'll probably be right back to gone in just a few moments. So I apologize in advance for that. But Alex, we'll get into the 17-7 loss that should have been a Giants win, but a few factors. One main factor that we will get into, and already I feel my voice being gone, is Daniel Jones. And we're going to talk all about it. But first, I'll ask, how are you doing?
Yeah, definitely rough one. Being at the game, first primetime Giants game that I've been to, at least in my lifetime so far. And it was disappointing, to say the least. Obviously, the game itself really wasn't that good entertainment-wise, even if you were a neutral fan. And for a Sunday Night Football product at least. And it was two teams that were very underwhelming. The Bengals slightly less so, and that's pretty much why they won the game. And I think it's pretty much as simple as that. And a lot of Bengals fans at MetLife Stadium too, Josh, which is not something I expected, especially given their poor start to the season. So it was interesting. It was fun to go to the game, of course, which is rare now that, of course, we're both at college and far away from home. So it's not easy to, link up and go to the game. So it was fun and it was a good experience that way. But in terms of the performance on the field and the product that was there for the 60 minutes that the Giants played, it was not good enough. And it all started with the main guy and ended with the main guy being Daniel Jones. And he just was not good enough from the first snap to the last snap. It was not a good performance from him. He had I remember the passes that I was like, wow, he had a good throw there. That was an accurate pass. And I could count them on one hand. And I think that pretty much states how bad he was in this one. And he is not a primetime quarterback, as we've known, as he's now, I believe, 1-14 in primetime matchups. And he is not good enough for the New York Giants at this point in time, and he's holding the team back at this moment. And it's sad to say, someone who really has given him, I think, a lot of leeway when a lot of people have counted him out for a long time now. And I think at this point, it's just my trust and faith in him has been completely broken, especially seeing it with my own eyes and seeing how badly he missed. Even from the 300s, you could see how badly he was playing throughout this one.
Yeah, Alex, I have a stat for you along with that Daniel Jones stat. This is a team one because, yes, it is not all on Daniel Jones, but it is mostly on Daniel Jones. But I will give you a team stat right now that there's only one team that has fewer than the Giants' one TD pass in their first three home games since the year 2000. That one team is the 2013 Jacksonville Jaguars. Alex, the 2013 Jacksonville Jaguars, they didn't do so well either.
They got like 2 wins, didn't they?
They had 4 wins. They went 4-2.
Oh, yeah.
And so anyway, the Giants are 2-4 right now. We'll have to see how the season progresses. But what I will say is, not a great team to be compared to for sure. Of course, I have a cough as well. So like a cough and a voice that's gone is not the 1-2 punch. It's really great.
It's the perfect recipe for a podcast.
Yeah, it's. Yeah. I want to say that a quote that Brian Daboll too brought up in his press conference. He said it's hard to win a football game when he scores 7 points. That's the reality. He's damn right, and part of that is on him for his play calling and for what he scripted up in today's game didn't fully benefit the Giants as well, and he did put that on him. You can't score 7 points, especially in today's NFL, and expect your team to win. All right. I devoted the conversation enough to other things and not Daniel Jones. Let's get into the quarterback for me. Alex already started with his thoughts. Daniel Jones in this game went 22 for 41 with 205 yards, no touchdowns, and one of the god worst, awful interceptions I have seen from the quarterback. And he's thrown many terrible interceptions in his career. Now, the Giants in this game, they start off bright and early with the ball. Now, the team can go down and get their first touchdown of the game as they forced upon the previous drive from the Cincinnati Bengals. This is in the first quarter later on. And the team does a good job. 3 straight plays with first downs, Alex. 3 in a row. Daniel Jones pass short left, Tyrone Tracy, 14-yard gain. Daniel Jones shotgun, short middle pass, Wandale, 15-yard gain. Daniel Jones pass, middle, intercepted, thrown in the air like a jump ball. Bro is not playing in the NBA. What are we doing? That is not something I should be saying in the NFL. There shouldn't be any jump balls. Now, this is what I don't get because the guy has done this before. We're scared to get in the red zone because this team, especially this season, has not done good in that part of the field. The one part of the field that's supposed to be a success for an offense of a football team. That's where you want to be. That's why there's a goddamn show every Sunday called NFL Red Zone, because it's exciting and that's when teams score points. But for the Giants, it really seems to be the opposite, because every time we get in the red zone, we get even more nervous because it seems like it's even higher of a chance that there is some sort of issue that relates in an interception or a fumble, a turnover for that matter. And in that first interception, when the Giants are down 7-0, looking to tie the game after, like I said, getting back-to-back first downs, back-to-back first downs, 2 quick play first downs in a row, that in a moment where you can, God forbid, eat up a sack, get moved back to the 27-yard line, something like that, whatever it is, or throw it away. Fine, you get intentional grounding, worst comes to worst. You throw up a ball that doesn't need to be thrown. That in the 6 years that Daniel Jones has been in this league, he still has not learned to figure out? That's what you're telling me? I mean, it's pathetic. But that's the thing. We said it year after year. And now we're in year 6. The guy has just over 1,300 yards. He has 6 touchdowns. He has 4 interceptions. He has an 80 passer rating, which is about right smack in the middle of his career total. We got to draft a quarterback in the first round. Tonight, we lost the game. And I'm sorry. I know it's not most of the time not on the quarterback, but this game was on the quarterback. And this is actually really funny because the other night we were talking, me and my friends and I at school, about Geno Smith, and how, Geno Smith has definitely, had some incompletions, some interceptions in that game on Thursday that led to the Seahawks loss. Now, they did almost complete a comeback against the 49ers. Geno Smith, his interception being one of the reasons he didn't. And me and my friends were arguing that quarterbacks should have their win-loss percentage should be a stat. Not so like thrown into their yards, their touchdowns, but the argument is that obviously, well, they're just one position. They can't control defense. But here's the thing. They are the most important position in all of sports. There's no argument there. So it is pretty crucial because they really do control the offense besides the running back. That win-loss, maybe it should be a category. And if there's a game that could show that, I think this game tonight against the Bengals can show that. Because against a high-powering Bengals team, and we'll get to the defense in the second half of our show today, or tonight, or whenever you're listening, we'll get to the defense. because they played a heck of a game. They played their asses off in this one. Keeping a Bengals team, a high-powering offense to a mere 17
Except
points.
for the first drive, of course.
I mean, that's bend, don't break, though, Alex. That's one drive. And you know what? This team shouldn't even have ended with 17. This team should have ended with 10 because they had 10 up until the very last drive. So I give full credit to the defense. And if there's a game that you want to put as a reason that a quarterback statistic, one of them should be wins and losses in their career, this is it right here. Because Daniel Jones lost the Giants this game. That's what I got. I think I talked to Alex. That might have been the most I've talked in a long time in a row. That was like 5 minutes straight. So I'll give it back to you.
Yeah. I mean, I think the one counter to that, you use that, and then you go to the previous quarterback for the New York Giants, Eli Manning, career 500 record, and he's a Hall of Famer. So, that's the opposite end of that argument, I guess you could say. But
that's when people argue he's not in the Hall of Fame. They say it's because he ended with a 500 record.
Oh, I agree. But I think a majority of people do think he should be in the Hall of Fame, generally. I think. I don't know. Maybe I'm in a closed Giants bubble where everyone thinks he is. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that, I guess, fully anyway. It is an interesting discussion, one I think, that is going to have to be discussed in the offseason when we talk about, quarterbacks coming in, drafting one, Daniel Jones or whatnot, because obviously he's not going to be around long term. And one thing I thought that was interesting, Josh, is Brian Daboll actually took responsibility for that Daniel Jones pick. By saying that, that one was on me in terms of the play call there. So interesting. There's a number of different ways you can read that. Some people are reading that he's done with Jones and he's taking it on just because, he's, kind of saying whatever, who cares? Other people are saying that he's saying that in a genuine way. Interesting. Just kind of a weird comment to make, especially on a pick that was just so bad and such terrible individual error by Daniel Jones. So I'm very curious to see in what direction, his comments over the next few days and weeks will be regarding Daniel Jones. And then just want to touch on the rest of the offense a little bit. Tyrone Tracy had a good game. He ran the ball really well. He was powerful. He was very agile getting through this Bengals defense, really grew into the game, especially in the second half as well, which is something you're always trying to see from a running back. And receiving wise, Darius Slayton was involved heavily, especially throughout the beginning of the game, got a little banged up in the second half of that concussion scare, a couple other, bang plays as well that, he got involved with. So he was definitely the main factor there. I really wish we saw a little bit more Wan'Dale Robinson. He's their most dynamic playmaker when Malik Neighbors is not on the field. And, I thought they really could have done a better job getting him involved and getting him more touches, because once he gets the ball in his hands, he can do some special things. And I was really disappointed that he wasn't more heavily used in the game plan this week like he was used last week in a more extensive fashion. So that was something that I thought was a little bit interesting from Brian Daboll. And then the offensive line definitely didn't hold up as well. Andrew Thomas looked very banged up. He was limping at times, especially in the second half with some sort of foot or leg injury. We'll have to wait and see what happens with that. I saw post-game he said he's going to need an MRI, so prayers that he's okay. Long-term, obviously, one of the most important pieces on this Giants offense, if not the most important one. Offensive line really grew into it also in the second half, especially in the run game, but definitely probably the most I've seen them struggle, especially against a pretty subpar defense in the Bengals, who really were not good at all this season and made it seem like they were an elite level defense against this awful Giants offense. But I think that's pretty much it I have to say for the offense. And they desperately miss Malik Neighbors is all I can say.
Absolutely, Alex. Tyrone Tracy not only getting involved in the rushing game where he didn't have a huge day stats-wise in that category. If you look at them, 17 carries for 50 yards, about 3 yards per carry. But he also got involved, had the same exact stat line, funny enough, as Darius Slayton, both them having 6 catches for 57 yards. And then Wan'Dale, 5 catches for 50 yards. Daniel Jones carried the ball 11 times for 56 yards, And I'll get to that now because, not only was Daniel Jones bad at this game, but this entire Giants offense was dismal, was boring. was lackluster. This entire game was boring. I know that. It was a, defensive masterclass on both sides, you can say. But the Giants playbook was a mix of a few things, and I'll get to them right now. They were quick fires to slants or cutbacks from Darius Slayton and Wan'Dale Robinson. We saw a few of those today. They were 2nd and 1 or 2nd and 2 QB draws by Daniel Jones. And I know, Alex, I know you're on the edge of your seat thinking about that, but I'm almost done. They were screen passes to Tyrone Tracy, or they were out routes to Tyrone Tracy, where we would see Theo Johnson clearly lining up on the outside. And we would literally say every single time, because it would happen one every 4 plays, oh, there's Theo Johnson lining up on the outside. They're going to look for Tyrone Tracy on an out route here. He's going to kind of bubble it to the outside. They're going to throw it to him. He's got an extra blocker like Theo Johnson, a big guy on the outside. And don't get me wrong, the Daniel Jones QB sneak things up the middle worked. The Giants got first downs from them on many occasions. The Tyrone Tracy bubble things with Theo Johnson on the outside, they worked on multiple occasions. But at a certain point, the deep shots, try them out. And you know what? The Giants did. And what happened? It was 3 times the ball was either underthrown or overthrown by Jones. All right, let's try something different. Daniel Jones, can you do something? Nope. We're going to try a button hook. A button hook, 10 yards by Darius Slayton. What do? You underthrow the ball to Darius Slayton by 3 yards. He has to dive for it, and he can't even make the catch because it's so far out of his reach. So, you know what? In that aspect, sure, we said in the beginning, or I said in the beginning of the podcast, Alex, that, Brian Daboll says it's on him, and he's right, and his play calling allowed the Giants to only get 7 points. But at the same time, this game and Daniel Jones is restricting what Brian Daboll can call for this offense, because he can't get so elusive with his play calling because Jones can't even throw the goddamn ball to people correctly, which is the one job he had. Not the one job, but one of the primary jobs he has as the quarterback, Alex. And he can't even do that. So Brian Daboll has to go to this goddamn bare bone playbook of basic ass plays. And You know what? That's why the Giants have 7 points tonight. That's why I'm screaming at my mic at 12:40 a.m. because the Giants can't score more than 7 points in a football game. It's unbelievable. This is terrible. Why do we have to sit here and do this every week? Because we have Daniel Jones in year 6 on his contract with this team. And you know what? If they keep him, he's even under contract next year. But luckily, we really hope they won't. God forbid if they keep Daniel Jones next year. Oh, my God.
I can't watch the guy anymore. And I know you mentioned
please, touch on your Daniel Jones QB sneaks on second.
The QB sneaks on second and short were driving me insane. Usually in that situation, it's like the perfect play action, deep shot opportunity. The Giants did not run it once. They were in that situation 4 or 5 times. They ran a QB sneak every goddamn time. And nothing, I think, tells you that I don't trust my QB more than that decision. Let's not throw a deep shot. He can't make that play. Let's QB sneak it on 2nd and inches or 2nd and 1 or 2nd and 2. It was painful to watch. I was cringing inside watching that happen. And like you mentioned, Josh, they dialed up a couple of deep shots here and there. Daniel Jones missed on each and every one of them. And by the end of the game, second half, they were barely dialing up any of them at all. And he can't make the throws. So why are you going to call the plays? And, Brian Daboll's been calling this offense like it's a middle school flag football offense.
It's literally what a high school offense looks like. It's what our high school offense looked like, Alex, when we didn't have a decent quarterback under the helm. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah. When you have the running back at quarterback or whatnot, like right. it's ridiculous.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous.
It's really, truly unbelievable, because then that's what happens with the high schoolers. They just go to a playbook, which is just all rushing, or the QB rolling out and finding someone. And that's what this Giants team is. And Alex, I'm going to touch on this guy too, because Jalen Hyatt, this recent draft pick that the Giants made, you're assuming, maybe he'll do something. Getting drafted last year in the 3rd round, He's supposed to be known as a speedster that's supposed to help this team out. And tonight he had one catch for 6 yards. Now, I don't know. It's because, again, they're not targeting him because his, primary use is on fade routes or deep routes where they're looking for him. 20 plus yards down the field, and either Daniel Jones can't find him or he's getting locked up. Tonight, I'm going to be honest, has been one of the only times I've been able to finally watch like an 11 on 11 full field view, because all we've been able to see is the games on TV. So it's a little nicer there. But it's like,
to be fair though, Josh, he really wasn't winning a ton. I was watching him too. He looked very lethargic almost today. I was very disappointed because I was keeping an eye on him too, because obviously there's something behind the scenes going on with him and Dable. That's obvious, I think, at this point. It's not even like a conspiracy theory. You just kind of put 2 and 2 together and you could see, obviously, there's not much trust going in a certain direction. Well, so, yeah, I mean, he's not winning his routes. Darius Slayton was winning much more often in terms of those deep fades or deep streaks, whatnot. And it's upsetting to see. And obviously we wanted him to be more involved, and we really thought he was going to be someone who, with Malik Neighbors coming in, or, with even Wan'Dale Robinson kind of being healthy again, that would get more and more opportunities because people wouldn't be as focused on him. And he's really not been able to live up to that. So that's been very disappointing. And, just one of the issues that, the quarterback also kind of letting him down at times, because there's been games previously, even last week, where he's been open and Daniel Jones has just not been able to hit him. And I can see that even from the TV view. You don't even need to be in the 300s to get the full bird's eye view to see that. So, yeah, very frustrating. But Jalen Hyatt needs to be used more. And, I don't know what he could do. Obviously, in today's particular case, he wasn't open much, but there has to be a way to scheme him open a little bit more.
And now it's just like, well, we'll touch on like Daniel Jones for a couple more minutes because I don't even know how much longer you could do this. But it's
luckily not much to mention about the defense considering they were so great.
Well, there is stuff to mention because we have to give them credit where credit's due. But I do want to say it's also so annoying because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense because in the Giants win last week against Seattle, Daniel Jones plays a decent game. He wasn't above and beyond, but he played decently well. He had over 250 passing yards. He had 2 touchdowns, and it just doesn't make sense because that was against a decent defense in the Seattle Seahawks. And now you bring in the Cincinnati Bengals, who come into New York allowing around 20 to 30 points a game. And why does he just look way worse? I don't get it. And I don't know if it's primetime, because I'm going to read this here. Daniel Jones isn't just 1-14 in primetime games. He also hasn't thrown a touchdown pass in his last 7 primetime starts. How insane is that? How insane?
Confidence just has to be at an all-time
7
and I think that's
games,
the only explanation.
7 primetime games. He hasn't thrown a touchdown pass in a row. Overall, Jones has 12 TD passes to 20 interceptions in primetime games. You can't have a quarterback that's scared of the spotlight, that crumbles when the lights are too bright. And that's exactly what happens with Daniel Jones, because we're talking about prime time. The lights are always going to be on. Those are night games. And he does not shine. Ever. Yeah. He stinks.
And with it being the New York Giants, no matter how bad we are, we're going to get primetime games just because we're in New York.
Of course.
And it's the Big Apple. So you're going to get that. And if 1 or 2 games a year you just mark down as a loss automatically, just because you know who your quarterback is, that's such a huge disadvantage. And,
Daniel Jones.
People always talk about Kirk Cousins and that he can't perform in prime time. And there's a lot of, I think, misconceptions about that too, because his record isn't nearly as bad in prime time and he throws touchdowns. He wins games.
But that's the thing. This is clear and obvious. Like you can't
absolutely.
double gap. You can't say, well, there's no. He's 1-14 with a 12 to 20 ratio and no TDs in his last 7 games in a row. That's a streak you can't defend. And that's the thing. You can't have a quarterback that can't perform a couple days a year. You just said it, Alex. You can't scratch off X's in games before the season starts where you see the kickoff time is after 8 p.m. on a Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, whatever it is. That's terrible. Knowing that with your quarterback that's going to be the case, and most likely they're going to lose a football game because Daniel Jones, your quarterback, just plainly just isn't good in those certain time slots of games. I don't know what else to say. And obviously he's not going to admit to it, and he's not going to be like, yeah, it's these games that get the best of me.
I suck in prime time.
Right. Obviously he's not going to say anything about it, but as a fan, as a viewer, as literally just a reader of what I just said or a listener, it's true. He can't perform in these games, and we've seen it time and time again. All right, Alex. We have the rest of the season now to harp on Daniel Jones before, hopefully he's gone by next season. But we have plenty of more games to talk about him, and I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens next week, because great, we get to play the Philadelphia Eagles now. Like that's our reward. That's our reward for sitting through whatever.
They played terrible today, but who knows?
Well, they're a better defense than the Bengals, I can tell you that.
True.
And we scored 7 points against them. So we're going to take a quick break, see if I can take a sip of water and get my voice back. And we'll talk about this New York Giants defense that did pretty well.
Struggled so much tonight.
That's probably a number of things, Dan. I'll go back and watch the tape. I thought we had some opportunities, throughout the game. Whether it be run, whether it be pass. We turned the ball over down there, on that drive, which was a good drive, and to come away with no points. And then I think 5 of 15, somewhere around there. Now we were aggressive on 4th down, as I thought we needed to be against this offense, but just couldn't generate any explosive plays. We had the penalty. And then other than that, we didn't hit many explosive plays. So that's okay. That's in a nutshell before watching it.
All right, now touching on a more positive aspect of the game, let's talk about the Giants' defense. And I think the first place to start is right at the front, right on the defensive line, with Azeez Ojulari, who had a monster game, absolutely monster game, coming in, filling in for Kayvon Thibodeau, who has now been placed on IR, and he's going to be out for a few weeks. Ojulari, obviously, with Brian Burns coming in, and now, a more competitive space on the edge and not getting as many opportunities, has not played, I believe, more than 28 snaps a game this entire season. Obviously got a whole bunch more than that this one against the Bengals. He ended up with 2 sacks, had a tackle for loss. He was just impactful, punched out the ball for the fumble as well. And he really was just all over the place. He was getting in Joe Burrow's face. He was consistently winning, and he was just really, really impressive. And opposite him, Brian Burns, also impactful, forcing Joe Burrow out of the pocket, forcing him to be uncomfortable, and making some big plays along the way as well. So those 2 guys, both off the edge, were very, very impactful, and that's what we've been waiting to see. Obviously, Azeez Ojulari, has been, someone who's kind of been on the edge. We're not sure if he's going to stick around past the season since his contract is up. People are now talking about all over Twitter, we got to extend this guy. He's a key part of this defense. And it's pretty crazy how one primetime performance where you really get going against a shaky Bengals offensive line at times really can turn the tides for you. And we just got to hope that he can keep staying healthy and stay on the field, because when he is on the field, he is a really big force to be reckoned with. So really positive things to see from him and Brian Burns. And then obviously Dexter Lawrence getting involved in the interior along with Nacho, along with DJ Davidson, and all those guys had a pretty good, solid showing against the Bengals. And they really didn't get much of a rushing game going throughout the whole one tonight.
Azeez Ojulari had 6 pressures and 2 sacks. The 6 pressures is tied for the most of any player in week 6. So there you go. Speaking of Azeez Ojulari's impact in just the one game that he's played this week and starting in this week. And then, like you said, Alex, with Brian Burns having 4 pressures, 8 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and a sack. Really great game for these edge rushers. This Giants defense is a top 10 defense in the NFL. And I don't think I'm really reaching far out to say that. they allowed only 17 points and against this really, really solid Bengals offense. I mean, you go through the numbers. Joe Burrow with no touchdowns, just over 200 yards. And then rushing the ball, Chase Brown, who's been pretty effective for that team, had the late touchdown and, sealing the deal sort of fashion, but the game was already really over by then. They could have taken a knee at that point. So only 10 carries, 53 yards. T. Higgins, 7 catches, 77 yards. Jamar Chase, 5 catches, 72 yards. Sure, like they made big plays in this game. They had chunk plays. Of course they did. They're one of the best wide receiver pairings in the NFL. But the way the Giants defense handled them was something that was really quite impressive to see and to watch. And I think you have to give credit to guys like Tyler Nubin stepping up with a tackle for loss today and 9 total tackles, which led the team, by the way. You have to give credit to Drew Phillips, who also had a tackle for loss in this game. Jason Pinnock, Cordell Flott, Belton McLeod, and Deontay Banks. You have to give credit to this Giants secondary for what they did today. I know I just named all of them, but they really collectively all had a part in only allowing, I'm saying it, in really only allowing 10 points in this game, because that's what they did. That I said to Alex, when we were leaving, I was like, Brown could have just slid down at the 1, like we saw, who was it, Devin Singletary do for the Giants to seal one of their wins of the season a couple weeks ago. He could have just done that, and it would have been just the same, and the Bengals would have been happy with that too. But he decided he wanted a touchdown, went into the end zone. Good for him, whatever it is. But they really only allowed 10 points in this football game today, and I will continue to say that for sure.
Yeah. And clearly Shane Bowen listens to the Giant Take podcast preview episodes, because they did exactly what I had suggested in that one, which was putting Deontay Banks on T. Higgins, who I think is a better physical matchup, and then get Cordell Flott on Jamar Chase with safety bracket help. And that's exactly what they did throughout this one. Obviously, Jamar Chase had that one big chunk play for 40 odd, or so yards. And that was probably the one play that really boosted his number. But besides that, he was pretty much, kept in check throughout this whole one. Virtually, I'd say, he still had 77 yards. So I'll give him something for that. But overall, those guys are elite receivers, and being able to hold them to under 150 yards combined, I think is a pretty good, showing from this Giants secondary, who's been questionable at times this season, especially Deontay Banks and Cordell Flott. So seeing those guys get involved and really make some good plays was, a positive thing to see for me. And, I thought McFadden had a good game as well. He was really all over the place. He was a guy who kind of stood out to me watching from that bird's eye view, Josh. He was everywhere making tackles and getting in the way of some dangerous Bengals runs potentially. So overall, the defense, like you said, Josh, they were very good and a lot of potential. And I think the Giants will definitely focus on the secondary come, the offseason, because that is the area where they're definitely the weakest in the defense, but a lot of young, promising players who are just only going to get better in that area. And I think overall, this defense should only get better week to week. And I think that's basically what we're seeing.
Yeah, Alex, I mean, I completely agree about this Giants defense. They're really solid. They once again showed it this week. And I'm actually really impressed. I thought this Bengals offense was going to easily get over 30 points. And they held them to a margin way lesser than that. So it was really, really nice to watch. And God, if only they had Malik Neighbors back and a decent quarterback under the offensive side of things, maybe this team, just maybe we could be screaming playoffs.
Yeah. Hey, Sam Darnold at quarterback and Malik Neighbors back and healthy this whole season, you could see this record flip to 4-2. I strongly believe that, honestly.
I don't know why you decided to select Sam Darnold, but
he's 5-0, man. He's 5-0.
Sure. I mean, yes, no, he is 5-0. And Alex, we talked so much about Daniel Jones and this game being on him and this loss being on him, but unfortunately, another week in a row where we have to touch on special teams, because this, I think this is the first. Well, yeah.
No, Joseph was good last week, wasn't he? I feel like he was. He had some field goals.
He was solid, but this is
it was 2 weeks ago that he was bad.
the first time I'm going to fully curse in this episode and say this special teams today was a god-awful shit show. And Greg Joseph, if you remember, had a chance to tie the game at 10s tonight with a 45-yarder, if I'm not mistaken, around there, field goal to tie the game at 10s. Missed it. Greg Joseph had a field goal in game overtime. Just like literally like the game was over at that point. It was done. That at least it was to attempt an onside kick and the game would have been 17-10. Missed it. Went 0 for 2 tonight with 2 field goals within 45 yards or less. And the second one was 45 yards. I think the first one was around there too.
I believe it was 47 and 45. Yeah.
Alex, that field goal was crucial. That game, the game could have been tied. Or the game would have been tied if he made that field goal. So again, I think, along with Daniel Jones and his efforts tonight, Craig Joseph makes that field goal. We could be talking about a whole different football game. The Giants would have been tied, and we would have had a tie game late in this game. So a tie game late, and that was
got absolutely nothing from punt returns either.
No,
probably gained like 2 yards total.
Again, Smith Marset goes down halfway through, misses a few of them. Adoree Jackson comes in. We don't want him to get injured, so he doesn't return anything. And then it's a whole thing. The kicker that came in though, what's his name?
Matt Hawk. Matt Hawk. He was bad first punt, but everything else pretty good throughout the rest.
Yeah.
So
I want to see if I can find his average punt.
I mean, I'd guess it was probably just under 50 yards. He had some nice punts. The first
40,
one not great.
4 punts, 47 average, and 2 inside the 20, 55 being as long. So a good day today for Matt Hack if the Scottish Hammer stays injured and Jamie Gillen for another week.
Could be missing a few weeks is what I read the other day. So we'll have to wait and see what happens.
I have no problem with him coming back next week. A problem I have is Greg Joseph should be cut after today's game.
Greg Joseph was probably not going to be on the Giants next week.
I strongly believe that too. Like that's not even, I feel like, a crazy take to say that. He was signed to come in to relieve an injured not Jamie Gillen, excuse me, Graham Gano.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing is, especially even looking at how many teams that he's been on, Greg Joseph, Dolphins 2018, Dolphins Browns in 2018, Panthers Titans in 2019, Bucks in 2020, spent actually 3 seasons with the Vikings 2021 to 2023, then the Packers, the Lions, and now the Giants in 2024. And this guy's been all around the place basically, besides his success with the Vikings. I think it's time to hang it up for him with his time with the New York Giants.
Oh, okay.
I
thought you were going to say hang it up in general.
Well, I mean, he's 30. He's got time. But with the Giants for sure.
Giants need to look around. That's for sure.
Yeah. So with that being said, we appreciate you listening to this podcast. If you made it this far, congratulations, because I know it was a really, really tough watch, and it was even tougher for us to react to it. So, but I hope you are at least able to, feel our anger, feel our sadness, feel our hopelessness through us, through listening to our anger and me struggling to keep a voice throughout the entire episode, because that's how it feels to be a Giants fan right now. If you liked it, subscribe on YouTube, hit that like button, or on podcast platforms, however you're listening and or watching this episode. Our socials are at the Giant Take Pod on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. Alex is on Twitter at Noreen23. I'm on Twitter at JoshSolo29. I'm not even whatever. Syracuse volleyball. I cover them for the TV station Citrus TV. What I do is every time I bring up my Twitter, I give out updates on them. They're doing just as bad as the Giants right now. They've lost 6 games in a row. I don't want to talk about it. All right, next thing. Thanks so much for listening and watching again. And Alex is going to tell you that. And then we can go to bed and then wake up to another losing Monday and then repeat the cycle next week when we play the Philadelphia Eagles. Alex, how about you take it away?
Yeah, thank you everyone for listening to tonight's episode or today's episode, whenever you're listening to this. Hopefully everyone has a great week despite this painful Giants loss, and we'll see you all next time. Looking forward to the Eagles. Peace.